I'm gonna kill you, Pinkskin. I'm gonna cut you and slice you nice and slow.
Dungeons and coffee.
Greetings.
Alright, Pinkskin, grab yourself some sticks.
Popsicle sticks, stirring sticks, sticks. Get yourself some glue. For this project I used tacky glue and super glue. Here you'll notice I circumcised these puppies, and I'm going to split some down the center later on to give them a rough-hewn look. Here you'll see I'm starting to stick together the basic shape of the tower. Don't try to make this look pretty. Although it's labeled as an orc tower, I'm going to tone it down a little bit so it can be used for other things as well. Here's just another angle so you can see that I'm beginning the ladder here. And here's the ladder coming along. It's time to consider a base for our watchtower, or lookout tower.
I almost zoomed through this process, but I thought it was interesting enough to take some time to explain it. I'm making a base for the tower. You see I've used a little bit of cardboard for reinforcement, but it's mostly just the sticks and the tacky glue. I cut the base out here, some cardstock, and I wanted to give it a little depth, so I cut out a smaller circle on top of that, and I cut out this shape with my X-Acto knife. And to make it look more natural, a neat little tip is take a lighter and burn the edges. Not too much, of course, just enough, burn those fuzzies away. And as that weakens the cardstock, then of course you make sure there's no coals or ash, anything like that, anything that's gonna, you don't want any fire. So take precautions there. But then once that happens, you can just take a paper towel or your finger and just rub that out. It goes very easily, and then the shape you're left with looks much more natural, much more sporadic and random, as if I would have kept the exact shape that I cut out. So just a little tip for you whenever you're making little holes or pools like that. With using cardstock, cardboard, that's a handy technique. It's fast and easy to use. So now, all I have to do is glue these together, let that dry, and then I'll doctor up my base. I'll go ahead and paint most of the tower. I'll probably put a base coat on there, and then I'll have a base to put my tower on, and we'll continue from there.
And what I'm doing here is I'm taking just a little bit of plaster. You could use some gummed up glue, it'd be the exact same effect. But I'm taking a little bit of plaster there, dab most of it off, and all I'm doing is I'm just spotting the timbers ever so gently. Just some random areas. Now what this is going to do is when I paint and go back with dry brush, this is going to kind of give the appearance of maybe some rough bark that wasn't completely removed, or just some rough texture in the wood. Because when this dries, it's going to be pretty bumpy, which is exactly what we're going for. Alright, to age this wood, I made a gray wash, and I'm applying it pretty liberal because these sticks will soak that up really fast. And it's going to look really too gray when you put it on, but it'll dry up. It won't look like that at all. So that's this step here I'm doing. Put it on nice and thick to cover all that white. And so it'll soak in there and give us that old rickety wood look. This is sort of what you end up with. And all those multicolors and the lighter areas on the higher parts. That's what you want. Okay, so here's what we have after this dried up. It's got some nice rough texture there. That's fantastic. And we've got some dull black in there, and we've still got some black showing through. That's okay. That'll give us some depth once we've got the color added. We have some dimension here by stacking up the cardstock. And of course we have our hole cut here, so that gives us some dimension as well. That's going to be a pool of water.
Now remember, in this case we did use plaster, and that of course has dried. So we want to be sure not to get this really wet. So we're not going to wet our paint. So that'll dry, and then we'll add a few more details and go over that, our base. I just tore these with some tweezers, made some little rocks out of some Sam Adams cork. So I've got some options here, various shapes I can put on the base and give it a little more flavor, a little more personality. Alright, so here's the base. And I want to add some more texture, especially around these lines where the cardstock connects. And then I want to blend it in also with the texture with the plaster and these larger rocks. So to do that, what I've done is I've got two types of sand I've poured in here. There's the really fine stuff and the medium grade, I guess the medium grain size sand. So I'm at this point going to take some very watered down glue. Very watered down. The classic recipe for this stuff is about half and half. I thought this was worth noting before I go any further. Once all my sand and stones were put on there, I did not paint over top of those. And so when I put the green over top of this, you'll notice that comes out a lot of variety. There's a lot of different shades of green in there and some other earth tones popping through. And that's only after applying just one color of green. But just by applying the one coat over top of all these other shades of other colors, that kind of pops out and it forces other colors through. So even though I used only one color so far over top of this base, you're really getting a lot of vibrancy through there, a lot of variety. So I thought that was worth noting. So it's a neat little trick to remember for future projects. Alright, as you can see, we don't have a whole lot of easy water to use. We're just going to use a few grains of this. But when you don't have much to use, like in this case, I'm going to show you a little shortcut. You just fill this in with the grains, and we're going to use our torch lighter and melt that right in, and it'll be nice, quick, and easy. We don't have to worry about heating this up over a stove just for this little teeny pool of water. Alright, so we've got our little beads in there. As you can see, I'm not covering the entire bottom because this raises up a little, the beads raise up a little higher than the depth. And because I'm using cork for the rock, I don't have to worry about those melting as if like I would if they were made out of foam. There we go. Yay!
Remember, keep your books off the table and keep reaching for the dice.